Okay, it's now time to discuss understanding and conquering your cravings. And before I get into some of the detail here, I'm going to share a story about my grandmother. My grandmother, rest her soul, she lived until I think it was 98, and she lived a very full life. She loved wine, and she was kind of a bon vivant, always up for an evening out, always up for a cordial after dinner. And I remember this is probably now about 25 years ago. She and I were sitting together on the balcony of her apartment, and we were watching a Christmas boat parade, of all things. This was in Florida. So we were watching the Christmas boat parade. So if it was 20 years ago, she was probably almost, 80 years old. Over 80 years old. So she and I were hanging out. We were having a glass of wine or whatever. I was probably having a beer. She was definitely having a glass of wine. And out of the blue, she said, right now would be such a nice time to have a cigarette. And I was like, Nana, what are you talking about? And she hadn't smoked, I think, for probably like 25 or 30 years. But she explained to me that certain scenarios for her were just a real trigger for craving a cigarette. And that's evidence, and we all have our own examples, but this is evidence of how difficult it is to break habits. They're always there, and there are triggers for alcohol consumption for so many different people. So step one of kind of understanding and conquering your cravings is to understand your triggers. So only you are going to know your biggest triggers. So again, I'm going to share some of mine and some that I've heard from others, but this is your turn to grab a pen to really understand and pick apart your triggers. So two of mine are the end of the workday, a stressful workday, or any workday really, but the end of the workday, as well as when cooking. These are two of my biggest times when having a drink sounds really, really nice. So I'll start with the end of the workday. For many years, I've been living in London, and if you've ever been here, or maybe you live here yourself, you'll know that there are so many inviting pubs. Any day of the year, any kind of weather, there are always people outside after work enjoying a pint, and there's something very cinematic about the whole thing. So it's very easy to get drawn into that yourself. So I just remember when it was quitting time at work, between my office and the Tube, there were many great pubs, and I would love to duck into one of those pubs, have a pint or two, or maybe even three before heading home. And that became a habit. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I liked the whole experience, just the exhaling after work, watching the world go by. But that was a big thing for me, and that took a lot of work to, combat, I guess, the urge to just make a left turn and go into the nearest pub for a pint. So I'm well aware of that trigger. Nowadays, there are many alcohol-free alternatives, so I can actually go into a pub and enjoy some of that experience. But at first, I simply took a different way home to avoid that trigger. The next was cooking. Cooking was a great way. I love cooking, and I would be responsible for the meals around my household. I'd cook even more at the weekend, and cooking with wine or cooking with beer was just such an easy opportunity to throw back a few drinks. So also a very hard cycle to break, because it just felt so natural and normal to have a drink while cooking. So those were two of my biggest ones, and a lot of it was through willpower. I know there's some courses out there that say that willpower is not important, and that instead you should just understand alcohol for what it is. I agree with that. But I'm going to say, when you have big triggers like the two that I just mentioned, it's going to take some willpower and change of routine in order to get through. The next thing that I learned in my journey is the concept of HALT, H-A-L-T. Remember this, HALT. Very often you'll get cravings when you're either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So HALT is a great acronym. It just reminds me that there are these kind of outside influences that are causing me to revert back to a habit that I felt was giving me peace, but in reality, it was giving me more anxiety and just worsening the issues. So let's break that one down. So hungry. What should you do? What should you do if you're hungry? Probably shouldn't pour a drink down your neck, as satisfying as that might have been in the past. But instead, it's okay, especially early days. Fill your belly. Go for it. Have a chocolate. Have a snack. This is going to sound ridiculous. I feel funny even saying it, but I would always go to this place and get a fruit smoothie. I felt like it was going to undo a lot of what I had done to myself over the years, but it was kind of a substantial, thick drink that would just fill my belly. And you know what? I couldn't fit a beer on top of that, even if I tried. But instead, I gave myself some nutrients, and I got over the hungry part of the HALT acronym. Angry. Oh man, there's so many reasons to get angry, aren't there? And those things are made even worse when you have a short fuse from being hungover, let's say. So whenever I would get angry or frustrated, I would choose that physical activity like we discussed earlier. So in my case, I'd try to go for a run or a really vigorous walk. So we've got hungry, fill your belly. We've got angry. I would combat that with doing something very physical and just getting out into the fresh air. Lonely. This is another time when so many people try to feel better by drinking, and it's hard because we don't all necessarily have a partner at home or children that we can spend time with. So again, I encourage you to find that online community. Please consider Hangover Free Me Society on Facebook. But maybe you have other places to go online where you can build community, or maybe you have individuals that you can trust. Maybe you have a psychologist that you can speak with. But our group, Hangover Free Me Society, will always be there for you. So please go for it and sign up. So we have hungry, we have angry, we have lonely, and now we have tired. For whatever reason, when you're tired, you feel like you just might want a drink or two or three to help you fall asleep. Take a nap instead. Really, take a nap. Or maybe just go to bed. I recall from my early days when I decided to stop drinking that I would go to bed really early. I'd get through the evening period by just going to bed and nourishing my soul really through sleep. You'll find that you'll want to take advantage of these moments and just hibernate while you heal. So we have hungry, we have HALT, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Just recognize that each of those things are triggers and that you have alternatives whenever you're feeling that way. Instead of having a drink, you can find your own alternative. And then finally, whenever I had a craving, there are moments when I'm like, oh, it would be great to go out on the town and have a real big night, right? But play that forward. How is that going to play out for you personally and the people around you? I'll give you an example. So a typical big night out for me would start going to the pub after work, calling up some friends, going out to maybe a few more pubs, getting a bite to eat, and then having a few more pints on top of that, and then getting home and maybe calling for delivery. So having, 2 dinners in one night. So there we go, adding weight and adding unnecessary calories. But surely I'd upset my other half by coming home late and by ordering a dinner and by kind of disrupting the peace at home. And then because I drank a lot and because I ate a lot, then I would pass out, fall asleep, whatever you want to call it. And it would be time to, then I would wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about, did I leave food out on the counter? What did I say to my partner? What do I have to do at work tomorrow? Just feeling that real anxiety, like, gosh, I need water. I have to get up and have a wee. I can't sleep. I have to get up at 6. You all know the feeling. So play it forward. When you get those cravings, think about what it's going to be like. Think about maybe it'll be fun for the first 30, 40 minutes, the first hour, but there are negative repercussions, and just play it forward. Is it really going to be worth it for you to have that drink? Because inevitably that drink turns into multiple. So know your triggers. Remember, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and then play it forward. When you get a craving, think about what the implications are if you go ahead with it and have that drink. So more ideas will be written down below. Welcome any of your comments on how you overcome your cravings as well. Love to hear it in the comments.